Hi, thank you. I guess I'll start by mentioning that we are kind of the key goal that we're aligned with is 8.8, and just kind of jumping into things. Over the last few years, you may have seen some reporting on the death of construction workers in the Gulf region. Ironically, it was also done largely by The Guardian, which I know, Patrick, you were mentioning before. Just to give a sense of scale, in Qatar alone, around 7,000 construction workers are expected to die by the time the FIFA World Cup starts in 2022. And the primary driver of these deaths is the heat. In the Gulf, temperatures reach often 50 degrees Celsius, and the impact of which is workers endure continuous heat stress, which can lead to a number of heart complications and often heart failure. With big events requiring lots of infrastructure, such as Qatar's FIFA World Cup and Dubai's Expo 2020, now just around the corner, things are only expected to become worse. The situation is further complicated by the fact that the Gulf's labor force is primarily composed of migrant workers who the government is not keen on taking much action to protect, and construction firms see as easily replaceable. Last year, I actually wasn't, as John noted, at the Symposium. My partner Jordan presented our work, and doing so, he posed a question that really, I think, positions
Sorry to interrupt you, Adam. I've just had some word from the interpreters.
Slow down?
If you could please slow down
Sure.
and speak up.
Okay.
And the reminder is to breathe between words, is what I was
Sure.
told. So I'm
Sounds
just communicating that. Thank you.
I will do that. Jordan kind of positioned our work with a question, and that was, how do we protect workers in the absence of a willing government in a seemingly disinterested industry? And our answer is to to make it so that protecting workers is for construction companies the least costly option. And our method of doing so is through the use of cooling vests. So I actually have one with me right here that I'll pull out. But essentially, the vests contain an absorbent membrane over here, and they're made of a breathable fabric with a water-resistant liner. And you soak the vest in water for around a minute, and when you put it on a worker, and they're kind of working out in the heat, the water will evaporate. And when that occurs, the heat will kind of be taken from the body into the kind of ambient atmosphere with the water. And so ultimately, the vest is just aimed at kind of protecting workers through reducing their core body temperature and keeping them cool. Our first round of testing was conducted prior to our attendance last year at the Vatican Symposium, and it went well. We saw great worker reviews, as well as drops in core body temperature and blood pressure on half the workers who had high blood pressure prior to the trial no longer had it by the end. Now, our largest issue in reaching migrant workers is how many are really in need of support. There are more than 1.4 million workers in Qatar alone, and the cost in trying to support this via donors would be very high. So instead, we make the case to construction companies that investing in this technology is in their best interests, seeing that there are a number of productivity, publicity, and medical costs related to heat-related deaths and illnesses. I should note that to sustain our operations and growth, we take a small margin on the sale of vests and use it for that purpose. And so last year when we were here, or when Jordan was here, we had really only done a first round of testing in Qatar, and since then a lot has changed for us. This summer we launched a new trial in Dubai with over 200 vests that was funded largely by the UAE's largest bank, and it's really great to see some local attention, some local groups wanting to play a role in addressing this problem. We've also made a new model of the vest, the one I just showed you right now. A key issue we had was that the vest would only stay cool for around 3 hours, and workers only have access to water, and enough water to kind of soak their vest at the start of the work day and at lunchtime. So we had to make some adjustments, and we have finally managed to accomplish that with the help of our great kind of manufacturing partner. We've also begun work with a number of other construction companies, one of which we're now in talks with, and that is for Dubai Expo 2020, which would be to get nearly around 5,000 workers wearing our vests. And on an interesting note, someone who we met at the Symposium last year is leveraging his connections to try and help make that possible. So appreciation is there for sure. One kind of our biggest mistakes that we made, and we had a lot of difficulty with this, was training. over the last little bit. With our 200 vest launch that we did in Dubai, around halfway through the program, no one was wearing the vests anymore. And the issue was that the people who were on that construction site were coming from an area in India where there was a fear surrounding kind of water and damp clothing, and they thought it would get them sick. So we had to invest a lot of time and a lot of energy into kind of coming up with new training materials and new training kind of mechanisms, and have a lot of different sessions to get everyone comfortable again, especially when it had already reached that point when they were already very, very skeptical about the idea. And I guess just kind of finishing off, this year we're certainly a lot better positioned to scale than last, and we're doing our best to do so quickly, particularly considering the urgency of the problem and considering that workers are often their family's sole providers, and so should a worker die, it's really the destruction of not only them but their entire family back home. And so we can use certainly whatever support you can provide, whether that be contacts in government, the construction industry, private sector, et cetera, to help make that possible. Thank you for your time.